Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Fit for All Phases podcast. My name is Heather Anderson. I'm a certified personal trainer and certified nutrition coach. And I want to talk to you today about another big rock of fitness, and that is sleep. All right. So, sleep or lack of can cause many issues. All right. So, if you're not getting 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep, then chances are you are slowing your fat loss. You are preventing muscle gain. You are dampening your recovery. And of course, you're also interfering in your performance too. So you will not perform as well. And you've probably noticed that on a night after poor sleep, you don't do that well in the gym or at work or just at life in general. So sleep is very important. So that's why I call this number 2 of one of the big rocks of fitness. Okay. So, what happens if you don't get enough sleep? If you don't get that 7 to 9 hours of sleep? Well, number one, you can slow your fat loss or increase your fat gain because a poor night of sleep increases your hunger hormones. And of course, if you get a poor night of sleep and your hunger hormones are up, you're going to overeat that day, highly likely. And it's also highly likely that you're not going to reach for nutritious foods like fruits and vegetables. No, you're probably going to reach for hyper palatable, overly processed foods because those taste good. And when you're tired, things that taste good make you feel better. All right. So that's one thing. Also, your muscle growth is probably not going to be increased at all if you have poor sleep. Muscle growth depends on recovery, right? And sleep is part of recovery. And if your sleep is off, you are not repairing your muscles. So all that work you did in the gym is not going to pay off. You're not going to get much stronger and you're not going to increase your muscle, which, as we talked about last time, is very important. So while you sleep, that is recovery time. That is when your muscle is repairing. That's when you're growing. So if you're lacking sleep, then you're probably also going to lack muscle or at least muscle improvement, right? And we all know that that is very important. All right. So, all right. Well, okay, Heather, I get it. I buy it. But what do I do? Okay. Well, here's some simple solutions. It's called the 3-2-1 rule. For 3 hours before bedtime, don't eat. All right. You should have your last meal finished 3 hours before you plan on going to bed. All right. So that means no late night snacking. That means no late dinners. And why? Well, because if you eat a meal before you go to bed, what are you doing? You're not really getting quality sleep. Your sleep is being dampened by digestion. You have to digest all the food that you just ate. And so your body is really working on that process more so than repair and recovery. All right. And your sleep quality also is going to suffer again because that's what it's working on. It's working on digesting that last meal that you had 30 minutes before bedtime, then and you're not going to sleep as well. All right. So 3 hours before bedtime, no food, not even a snack. All right. 2 hours before bedtime, no fluids. And this is an easy one. If you have a bunch of fluids before bedtime, you're going to be getting up and you're going to have to pee. All right. And if you're getting up and having to pee, that means you are having to get up out of bed. You're going to have to walk to the bathroom. You're going to have to use the bathroom. You're going to have to come back to bed. By the time you've done all that, your body is awake. Your mind is more alert. Right. So getting up in the middle of the night to have to use the bathroom because you drank too much before you went to bed is going to make it very difficult for you to sleep long and have quality sleep as well. So finish your fluids 2 hours before bedtime. All right. So the one part of this 3-2-1 rule is no screens an hour before bedtime. So that's no television. That's no computers. That's no phones. And in fact, if you could dim the lights and make it avoid all bright light 1 hour before bedtime. And our screens, I believe the phone has a 4-time flicker rate of any other screen. So phones are especially off limits an hour before bedtime because that's going to stimulate you and it's going to keep it to where you cannot sleep very well. All right. So what can you do? Well, you can kind of, turn down the lights. All right. That's nice. I mean, I know you've noticed that if the lights are dim and you're just kind of sitting around, you're going to fall asleep. All right. So now if you want, you can read or you can meditate because these are things that, are usually calming, especially meditation. Now, you probably don't want to read a Stephen King book or some kind of horror or sci-fi book that's going to get you all excited. You probably, as I will not read anything that applies to, fitness or health or anything like that, because then that'll just fill up my mind and then that's all I can think about before I go to sleep. But, read something, that's really relaxing and just avoid like stimulation, right? Stimulation of any kind. One thing that helps also is the environment that you're sleeping in. So it should be cool, it should be dark, you should have no distractions. Like, make sure you have those blackening curtains. Make sure you have some of those that keep any excess light out, any moonlight, street light, your neighbor's light, whatever. Make sure you have room darkening curtains. Make sure you close your door and don't allow like animals, pets, or anybody to come in and disturb you in the middle of the night. Make sure your door is closed, maybe even locked if you have to. All right. And make sure it's cool. Use a ceiling fan, use a box fan. Make sure that your room AC or that your AC at night is set to a lower temperature than you would have it during the day, because a cool room, a cool, dark room almost feels like, and excuse the expression, a tomb. And what do you do well in a tomb? Well, you sleep. The long sleep, but you sleep. Okay. So make your room as tomb-like as possible. Ooh, sounds scary, right? Anyway, so you really have to tackle this one big rock. Your sleep has to be good. It has to be long. It has to be quality. You want it to where you're dreaming when you sleep. You want it to where, like, even if someone were to knock on your door violently, you wouldn't wake up. Right? That is a deep sleep. That is a good sleep. So you want lots of sleep that is deep. You want lots of sleep with REM or dreaming, and you want to be undisturbed throughout the night. So that's why that 3-2-1 rule comes in handy for a good night's sleep. All right. And as I said before, a good night's sleep is imperative to fat loss, to muscle building, to just overall quality of life in general, right? It helps you perform better in all sorts of ways, whether it be daily life, exercise, whatever you are doing that day. So, big rocks of fitness number 2 is sleep. Make sure you get some. And I will be tackling another big rock of fitness next time when I see you on the next episode of the Fit for All Phases podcast. And if you would do me a favor and listen to the podcast, I keep these short so that you don't feel like you have to, spend your whole day listening. And I want to make them short and actionable information. And I would like you to listen. I would like you to learn, really let all this stuff sink in. Listen to it again if you missed something and like it, if you will. That really helps get this information out to others. Subscribe to my channels on YouTube or Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and also share it. Share it with your friends. Share it with someone who you think needs to also hear this information, because sharing is caring. All right. So until next time, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.